Welcome back, witches. It is time for Module 2. Module 2 is all about herb blends. So first we're going to talk about how you can create herb blends easily with your correspondence sheet. And we're also going to talk about what you can do with those herb blends. We're going to talk about grinding, and we're going to talk about making blends for incense to burn on charcoal disc. We're going to talk about making blends for teas that you can drink and safely consume for medicinal and magical purposes. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing that I want to talk about is creating your blends. Now you should have already read the PDF that corresponds with this video. And if you did, then you know that we don't want to just start randomly going in here and grabbing herbs that may or may not mesh well together or meet our needs. If you're making a tea, then you want to make sure it's edible. If you're going to make an incense, then you kind of want to make sure that it smells good. If you're going to make an herb blend to any kind of medicinal or magical purpose, you want to make sure that they complement each other. The herb blends need to complement each other. They need to be working towards the same goal. And you also want them to just smell nice in general. So today what we're going to use is some rose. I love rose. I use it often. I buy it in bulk because I do use it so much. In addition to rose today, we're also going to be using chamomile. This is a nice mixture. It's edible mixture, so I can use it for teas and for topical applications. And also lavender. Now I really love the way these three complement each other so well. Their magic works well together. They can also be used, they have a lot of the similar correspondences. So you can use chamomile for anxiety, and you can also use it to manifest. You can use it for dream work. You can use rose for protection. You can also use it for divination. The possibilities are endless, and lavender also has those calming abilities. So all kinds of calming herbs like that are really great to kind of set you in a meditative state to be able to work on receiving messages from spirit guides, divination, strengthening your psychic abilities, things like that. Astral projection, all things psyche. If you can calm yourself down, you can really get to a place and be effective there in your craft. By using that Herbal Correspondences sheet that I have given you guys in Module 1, you're going to be able to create a number of recipes and different brews and concoctions. It's a really great starter place. Now, there's a ton of herbs and flowers and plants that you can use for this. I don't have enough time to go through all of them. So the list that I gave you is a pretty basic list. It's a starter list, but those are all herbs that are pretty much a staple in most witches' apothecary. And you do well and do a service to yourself by investing and getting some. But let's go ahead and start grinding. Now, if you read through the PDF, you know that we talk about 3 different kinds of tools you can use for grinding. Talk about a mortar and pestle. Talk about a molcajete. And we talk about a coffee grinder. Now, I'm not going to show you how to grind with a coffee grinder today, simply because, as I said in Module 1, I don't use my coffee grinder to grind my herbs. I use it to grind my coffee. And I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. If you want to go buy an electronic coffee grinder, you just would use it, and you would use your herbs in place of the coffee beans. It's pretty easy. Now, I will say, if you're somebody that suffers from arthritis, wrist pain, or for whatever reason, maybe you don't have the time to grind manually. Whatever the case may be, you may want to look into using a coffee grinder as a practical method for grinding. Let's go ahead and do a little demonstration on using mortar and pestle to grind, as well as a molcajete to grind. Grinding in a mortar and pestle is fairly simple. There isn't a whole lot to it. I do have quite a few herbs in here right now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move some of these over into my molcajete so that I can show you guys that in a moment, and I'll also show you the difference in the grinding. Okay, so here I have some rose, some lavender, looks like some chamomile. Those are 3 I use a lot, actually. Oh, and there's some verbena flower in there too. Nice. See that? So you just take the pestle and you grind it up. I find find that doing a little bit at a time is a lot more effective than trying to do a big chunk. And again, when they're dry, this is a little bit easier. They have a tendency to just kind of grind up really, really quickly. As you can see, we've already gotten quite a bit of powder here. Now, depending on what you're doing is going to determine how much you want to grind these up. If you're going to use them to dress candles, which we'll talk about next week, you're going to want to break them down fairly small, at least if you're going to do a non-glass encased candle. Glass encased, I would also recommend breaking them down fairly small, and we'll talk about more of that next week. Okay, so as you can see, the only thing that really didn't kind of break down too much was these verbena flowers. Everything else is a nice powder. Now, grinding with a molcajete, I feel like can be a little bit more effective. I've talked about this before, but again, check out those grainy edges. It's basically like grinding it with a rock. So where I had some of the issues before with the verbena flower, and there's some chamomile stem in there, I'm not gonna have that issue here. It's already grinding it up much faster. And with less effort. Another thing that I would add is I have found that these have been a little bit cheaper than mortar and pestle. So if you have to choose between one, you know, definitely weigh your options, but I think these guys are great. So now we've got that ground up really nicely too. And it smells amazing. So I'm gonna have to do something with these now. Because the herbs that I've decided to demonstrate the grinding on with you today can be used topically, they can be ingested, they're safe to eat, they're edible grade, food grade, and they serve magical purposes as well, we're gonna go ahead and use them for both our incense blend and our tea blend. Now we're also gonna use another tea blend that I've specifically created for this module, but since I've got so many of these herbs, I just want to make the best out of the situation. Now, first thing that we're going to do is we are going to get ready to burn our herbal blend incense. Now, when I was doing my introductory PDF, I talked about these tiny cauldrons. I have a couple of them and I love them. They're perfect for burning incense in. And super witchy, right? The other thing that you're going to want to have at this time is your charcoal disc. Now, a while back, I found this cute little kit for like $7, and it has a little metal spoon that matches, and then this guy. And this guy is perfect for picking these up because they are black, they are charcoal, and they will stain your hands. Now it's time to light our charcoal disc. And this is charcoal, so of course it's going to put off some sparks, and it's going to take a little while until it's ready. Just like a barbecue charcoal, you're going to want to wait until this is all the way white before you burn your incense on it. Just like when you're cooking at a barbecue or something like that, you always know that the coals are ready because they turn white. The same applies here. It typically takes about 10 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this on our cauldron, and we are going to wait for it to get ready so we can burn some incense. All right, it definitely looks like our charcoal is ready. It's nice and white. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and burn some of this herb mixture that we've created. Just sprinkle it on. A little bit goes a long way. You don't want to overdo it and pile too much of the herbs on there because it has a tendency to kind of just smog out. You want to allow everything to kind of burn evenly before adding more on there. This is a great way to smoke cleanse your house. That's another reason I like these cauldrons. You can kind of just walk around your house and allow the smoke to cleanse. And it smells great. I wish you guys could smell, but technology isn't that advanced yet, is it? Beautiful. And you can also use smoke scrying whenever you're doing this kind of work. That's another thing. Some people like to use smoke scrying as a form of divination, and this would be perfect application for that. Now that we've burned our incense and our house is starting to smell really nice and fragrant, and our spirits feel uplifted because all of the correspondences of those herbs had calming, healing, and relaxing correspondences, so we're starting to feel really good. Let's go ahead and go work on making some teas, shall we?